Hello, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on the Female Shaman Stories for Sleep. I'm your host, Sheila Hernandez, and if you're joining me for sleep, welcome and please relax. If you are joining me to think about and talk about shamanism, welcome. And you, of course, don't need to lay down or relax, but you're all so appreciated here. I'm very grateful for the response and for people listening to the show, and I hope that it is helping you all in some way, either on your own shamanic journey or for getting some sleep yourself. Try not to take, if you are having trouble sleeping, try not to take it personally. Try to think of it as, sometimes we're influenced by the planets and things are, whatever your particular chart is, you might be influenced by things happening in our solar system, or they can just be the machinations of your mind. And the mind exists to solve problems. As my first meditation teacher, Marcelo, always told me, the mind is there to solve problems. So even if you don't have problems, the mind will invent problems so that it can keep working. And try to keep that in perspective. And particularly when we are trying to fall asleep, and maybe you're one of those people who doesn't like to eat before you sleep. Maybe you try to eat earlier, and so maybe your stomach is empty and your mind perhaps gets triggered and thinks, oh, I'm hungry, maybe I need to start working to get some food into my system, and then begins thinking, strategizing, solving problems. And it can just be a trigger from going to sleep on an empty stomach. And I'm not saying to eat before sleep or to not eat before sleep. I mean, they sort of say, the books on falling asleep say to not eat carbohydrates before bedtime. So that's rice, bread, alcohol turns into sugar, anything with sugar, chocolate, ice cream, all of the ice cream in particular is very nice to eat at night before sleep, but it can really keep you awake. The sugar keeps us awake, and then it triggers the mind, and the mind stays awake much longer than the sugar running through our body. And so you can drink something like gazpacho, or eat hummus or beans, something that has protein, or cheese, maybe not right before sleep, but an hour or so. That might help alleviate. Or if you're really tossing and turning and trying to find sleep and cannot, you can just get up and make yourself a little cheese plate or a plate of beans, or drink some gazpacho, and then listen to something that will soothe your mind and help you relax and allow yourself to fall asleep. And give yourself, try not to expect, the Buddhists say that expectation is the road to suffering. And I think that that's sort of what happens to us when we really want to fall asleep very badly. And we have this expectation of falling asleep right away. And then we get upset when we can't. For some people, particularly people with low blood pressure, for example, who also make the best lucid dreamers, by the way, because we can engage our will in semi-conscious states. That's what our low blood pressure, our blood pressure is directly related to our states of consciousness. And so if we can maintain a level of consciousness while in a semi-conscious state, well, then that's the key to lucid dreaming and conscious dying, and in the Mexican shamanic tradition, working with the forces of life and death, which makes a great shaman. So try to keep that in mind, that that not to have the expectation that you're just going to fall asleep like a rock when you're having trouble sleeping. Give yourself 30 minutes, and that will assuage your mind, so that it releases the pressure. You say, oh, I have all this time, and then see how maybe in 30 minutes of listening to something without the lights and relaxing and your stomach feels okay, that you ease into sleep. So I hope that that's helpful. And today I'll read to you from 2 stories. The first will be a short story that I just wrote about the chakras, the Sacral and Heart Chakra, because it's what I'm teaching right now to students and clients, and I thought maybe the chakras are always interesting to people, I think, and it's a way that we can manage our own energy system in our own body. So I hope you like that. And then if there's time, we'll go back to reading from The Wheel of Time from Carlos Castaneda and his teacher, Don Juan. While I read to you, I'll talk a little bit about processing our emotions. Well, maybe I'll just say it now. And please, if you're looking for sleep, relax. Align your spine on your mattress. Get into any comfortable position that your body is craving, that your body is wanting you. It could be on your right side, on your shoulder, with your head on the pillow. It can be on your left side, with your one knee up or 2 knees up. Maybe a pillow on your abdomen, between your legs, or a pillow supporting your knee. Maybe you want to turn the pillow over so that you have a cool setting. The heat in your bed is really important to falling asleep and for your dreaming. Usually when we have bad dreams, you'll notice you'll be really hot. And you'll wake up hot, sweating, things are warm. So try to keep your bedroom and your bed and your sheets cool if possible. If you generate a lot of heat in your body, then that can be difficult. So then you wake up and then you go to the fresh side of the bed, go to another part of the bed. And if you have a partner in the bed with you and you don't have room, you may want to go to another part of the bed, or even, sleep in another place. And that can be helpful, to have various places in your house to sleep. You don't always have to sleep in your bed. You can sleep on the floor, you can sleep on the couch, you can sleep in another room. That's been known to be very helpful to people, particularly if you are at a moment where things are challenging for you, and maybe you do need to solve some problems, with work or family or a relationship. And so your mind is working overtime. That might be a good time to find new places in your home to sleep, and that might alleviate some of the thought patterns. So that's what I wanted to address a bit in terms of last episode. We talked about processing your emotions, and I'll talk about it a bit in the article, the chakra article. But when we consciously process our emotions, we allow them to run through our body. And it's a mind and body, energetic body process. And sometimes when we are in a very emotional place, it's very difficult for us to engage our will, and so we stay in the mind and we analyze our emotions and we analyze how we're feeling, and we begin the analysis. Analysis is a form of thinking, and so that really gets the engine of thinking going. And if you notice if you do any kind of meditation practice, you might notice that the mind operates in loops. Then we have the saying of having a train of thought. And I mentioned this before, or you have the same record playing, or the same CD or tape, or the same album plays over and over again. We tend to think the same thing over and over again, and we call these thought patterns, well, what we know now with neuroscience and the study of the mind is that creates neural pathways. And so neural pathways over time become thicker and thicker. And I really believe that the practice of shamanism, part of what we're doing by working with our energetic body, is changing those neural pathways. So we're redeveloping them. We are not paying attention to maybe our normative patterns of thinking and starting to create new patterns of thinking dependent not on the analysis of the mind and repetition, which is the work of the subconscious, repetition, but from our will. So creating new thought patterns from the place of our will, the place of our gut, and our intuitive perception that lives in our abdomen, the upper and lower womb, as it's called in Mexico, el vientre bajo, el vientre arriba, which is another perception point. So we have the five senses, and our eyes perceive the world, but we also have other perception points, which is part of how intuition works. But we have to come out of the place of the dominance of mind in order to hear it. And so the greatest gift that you can give to yourself is to let things go. To let yourself let things go. And it has to be a conscious decision, because if you're not conscious about it, you won't let things go, and that's just the way that our minds work, in these thought patterns. So we have to very consciously decide. I'll give an example. Say you had a difficult childhood, or something happened in your childhood where you didn't feel loved, and that feeling of not having enough love has repeated in your life the idea that maybe you're not loved in the world, or maybe you're not loved enough, or something along those lines, that belief, that thought pattern. Well, if it started in childhood, then maybe it has grown over time, and it will keep recurring whenever you're triggered, whenever something happens, things don't work out, maybe you're dating someone and the relationship ends. Well, that thought pattern will come back. And so you have to very consciously let yourself let it go. And the body will want to let it go, but the mind hangs on because it wants to solve the problem of not being loved, right? This need, this very human need that we all have of being loved. And I think we can, one of my teachers in Mexico says that when we're falling asleep and you're doing the lucid dreaming practice, which is basically breathing and imagining, really strong imagination with your breath in a semi-conscious state, if I could say it in a nutshell. And I might do it with you at some point. I probably will. He says that the mind tricks you before falling asleep into these thought patterns. And so the mind can trick you into thinking, oh, you're alone, or maybe you're not alone. Maybe you have a partner right next to you, but you feel alone, you feel unloved, you feel that there's not enough of something in your life. It could be love, it could be money, it could be friendship or community. All of these things are basic human needs. But perhaps in your community or your language form, such as English, the words aren't said to you enough. Or maybe they're not said to you enough at that time that you need it. Maybe they're said to you at other times. So we have to consciously let go of those old negative thought patterns. Because when we're tired and the mind is sort of let to drive the car off the cliff, these things will come up, and maybe we'll believe them, or we'll follow the train of thought, and then the self-pity will be there, because self-pity, the ancient shamans of Mexico believe self-pity was a force that we never really get rid of. But when we start to pay attention to our intuition, or what they call the second attention, our self-pity takes a backseat, basically. So that self-pity is always there, and don't judge yourself for it. If it's a force, it just exists, like gravity, and we deal with it, we manage it. So with our strength but sometimes we're not always so strong, and that's okay too. And often in those times is when our greatest healing work is done. In those moments when we're not feeling so strong is the times where those deep beliefs, those old thought patterns come up. And it's good that they come up, because they're coming into our conscious reality. And when they come into our conscious reality, we can consciously decide to let them go and see that we had this limiting belief in our subconscious, some old belief that's actually not really true. And it's those limiting beliefs that stop us from doing the things that we really want to do, from having the kind of relationships that we have, having the kind of identity that we want to have, having the kind of work that we want to have. For my last 2 points, the saying the comiendo la cabeza is something you say in Spanish. People say, I'm happy because I'm not comiendo la cabeza. I'm not eating my head. And I think that's something we do right before sleep. So not everything that we think is important, particularly when we're tired. And my final point is to try to focus on the rebellion of creativity. Because the creativity, when we're creative, and it without judgment, I mean creativity without judgment. So you don't have to be talented or good at whatever creative project you're working on. All the artists I know don't think of creativity like that. Creativity is something you do for your health, for your mental health. It's not about the outside world. It's not about how beautiful it is or how well written it is, or how well you played, how much your singing sounds pleasing to others. No, it's about your own joy. Creativity creates joy, it creates space, it creates magic. It creates room for you to have, for your identity to blossom. It creates room for your blossoming. In the Toltec system, the heart is represented by a flower because we blossom, and the word blossom means enlightenment in Nahuatl. So we blossom and we become enlightened from our heart, and that's directly related to our creativity. And because part of it is that there's no judgment. You're not analyzing. I mean, maybe you are. There is some mental activity, certainly, but it's not critical mental activity. It's creative. And one thing I've noticed being a Leo, which is a very creative sign, ruled by the sun, is Leos can be very creative, or if they don't have a creative outlet, they can be very critical and very self-critical also. But when you criticize yourself, you criticize the outside world, and that's a wonderful thing to remember. If you're dealing with someone who's being critical of you and maybe has hurt your feelings, try to remember that whatever they say to you, they say to themselves 3 times over, which is why in the yogic tradition they say when someone points a finger at you, they have 3 fingers pointing back at them. So maybe that can give you a bit of compassion for yourself, really, that what they're saying doesn't really have to do with you. And we more grow by the things that we realize about ourselves, not by what other people say to us. So if you are wanting to tell someone the truth about themselves, that's helpful to remember. You can tell them, and maybe they'll hear it, but maybe they won't. And if it's gonna hurt their feelings, then maybe it doesn't have to be said, because people don't really change, because people don't change like that. Say, oh well, you're doing X, Y, and Z, and that makes you a bad person. That doesn't really change people. People change over time like that, when they are being selfish or what have you. And really, that manifestation of existence is living a life outside of yourself, The most selfish and what we call narcissistic people in the world are living a life based on other people's perception of them, and that's why they cling to themselves and manifest the thing we call selfishness. It's really just an act of desperation, and you can see your own selfishness that way also. When we act selfishly, it's because we're unhappy and we're desperately trying to get out of the turmoil of our own inner turmoil, even if we don't acknowledge it. So let's get to our readings. So if you're still awake, lay down, find a comfortable, cool position. If you're just listening, thank you for listening and giving me your attention. I appreciate it and really love making this podcast for all of you. So the name of this short article that I published in Elephant Journal, or will publish in Elephant Journal, is called The Chakras, Emotional Processing, Toltec Knowledge and Phi, They like it for you to do these long titles, so that's fine for me since I sort of like making long titles. And that's just my own creativity. Strengthening the energetic body for balance and sleep. Article begins. It's about 800 words. I am someone who occasionally has trouble falling asleep. The truth is, I've been like this most of my life. While some people can sleep on a crosstown bus, I lay awake, looking at the animals galloping across my pajamas. I have unicorns on my pajamas. I've come to realize my heart chakra is integral to the health of my energy body and its need for balance and rest. In my journey to find sleep, I've become a lucid dreamer. There's a litany of things I do in order to astral project and lucid dream. In this short article, I'll discuss my practice with the chakras and the energetic body. My crown and root chakras are fairly open and balanced. My inner chakras, however, need attention. My crown and root chakras are fairly open. Oh, I read that already. The Sacral Chakra, or vientre bajo in Mexico, located just beneath the navel, represents the color orange, thriving beyond survival, and the ability to process emotions and cravings in the body. For example, the sacral chakra can become out of balance when, as a child, a person puts aside their emotions in order to keep the peace in their home. Perhaps this is the child's assumption. Regardless, the child who grows into an adult may continue this energetic pattern, neglecting the heart healing which happens when we consciously process our emotions. In order to process our emotions, we have to pay attention to what's happening inside of ourselves. Acknowledge any pain, grief, or discomfort. Release it. Allow it to exist and to leave. Then we feel the love and openness that follows the release. Even the most acute emotion, if allowed to be released, will pass through the body quickly. The body is an energetic system. If one chakra is out of balance, it will affect the others eventually. When a chakra is out of balance, it can often be seen in the physical body as posture. I tend to allow my belly to hang out so I can relax into the strength of my back. I have a very strong back, and I lean on it. This creates a strong curve in my lower back and slouching in my shoulders. Hours spent on the computer exacerbates my slouching as I move my hands forward to type. This posture has affected my heart energy center, or chakra. When I was a teenager, I looked like olive oil, thin, dark hair, and erect. As I've gotten older, I look more like a Botticelli painting. I prefer more round and robust. I prefer my current body, yet balance is key to a thriving life. We deserve to thrive. Too long, most of us have been in survival mode, moving from one job or another, or relationship to another, looking for the thing that will save us. The truth is, we can save ourselves by healing our energetic body. That means movement and balance. Most traditions, from Buddhism and Hinduism to Taoism and Toltec, agree we have spinning energy centers along our body. These centers need to spin in order to allow the energy to flow. The outer chakras, the crown and root, can be easier to spin as we connect them to the earth and cosmos. If you are intuitive or interested in mysticism, you probably have some ability connecting in this way as a conduit. The third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, and sacral chakras can be trickier to move and balance. The great thing about energy is its lightness. Once a chakra begins moving faster, it's easier to maintain the motion until we feel it balancing. Basically, the law of inertia. A thing in motion will stay in motion until stopped. Some blockages to our chakras are physical posture, negative thought patterns, and negative feelings. Here, the heart chakra is vital. The heart is a cosmic energy center. The universe has a knack for creating energy in waves. Waves of light, waves of sound, waves of gravity. Even time has been famously called a wrinkle, like the book A Wrinkle in Time. The heart creates waves of energy through our body we call well-being or love. If the heart chakra, for whatever reason, becomes imbalanced or weak, we feel it until it finally affects our most basic needs of eating and sleep. The critical question is, how do we balance and move these invisible energy centers in our bodies? My favorite way is to breathe deeply into the location of the center. For example, my heart chakra responds very well to breathing. And now, if you're trying to fall asleep, really relax and open yourself to this small meditation. I imagine, so breathe deeply, take a deep inhalation, exhale through your mouth, releasing any negative emotions and creations. Allow it to settle. And I imagine my heart center as it would appear in its form outside my human gaze. I usually use something like a hedron, being a cosmic center which radiates waves of energy throughout my body. I see the heart as a pink gem formed by many Pythagorean triangles. And so you can imagine it now. If you're listening, take another deep inhalation, pulling the light of the sun or of our star, and even pulling in the light of the moon if it's not a full moon while you're listening, and allowing that light to come into the prism of your heart chakra. And you can imagine it as a pink diamond or a rose quartz or a pink hedron with multiple Pythagorean triangles jetting out from the front to the back. And now exhale any negative emotions or creations trapped in your heart and releasing them deep into the earth. Exhale. And when you exhale, use your abdomen. Our exhalation is engaged to our will. And again, take a deep breath. Expanding that pink light or gold light or white light into your heart center, which is a multi-dimensional gem of any choosing. And then exhale deep into the earth. Any negative creations, any negative emotions, any negative thought patterns, any negative ancestral beliefs or experiences. And so loving your ancestors by releasing via your heart into the earth. So every time we release them from our heart space, sending the love to our past, to our lineage, to our blood, to our bones, we're healing them in the process. And as we heal them, we heal our dreams, we heal ourselves. And let's take another breath. Inhale, expanding the light cosmic energy, imagining your heart as the center of the galaxy, and where all the many stars create light at the center of a galaxy turning, and the other stars are our other chakras, the other sources of light and energy centers. And then exhaling again any negative emotions or creations into the earth, really creating a bond in space where the earth supports us, and we feel that love and re-identification with the earth, that opening, that energetic connection with the earth, allowing the earth to support you in moments of mental activity, in moments of overthinking, in moments when you're trying to fall asleep, in moments when you're sad, you're crying, in moments of joy and in moments of love. And I'll continue with the article. So physical, here is where Pi and sacred mathematics comes into the practice. And Pi is famously 1.63809993 into infinity. Pi is being, here is where Pi, sorry, I'm just going to take a drink. When I do the meditations, I channel, and it makes me thirsty, as some of you probably know from your own channeling. So here's where Pi and sacred mathematics comes into the practice. Pi being the golden mean, or most commonly recurring mathematical pattern in our observable reality. And I'm referring here to the spiral that we see in the galaxy, in shells, in leaves. There's a lot written about it, and I'll let you do your own research. Pi being the golden mean, or most commonly recurring mathematical pattern in our observable reality, is not the half of one. It's 2/3 of one. It's non-binary. Pi is a function. It being non-binary is important. Physical reality is binary, right? We have light and dark. We can see things from our eyes because there is the light and dark aspect. Two halves make one, as in creation, creating babies. We must use mathematical law to understand energy as we consider it infinite, and as we have no tools to deal with infinity. So this is important because energy is infinite, and because our perception is limited to binary, we don't know how to deal with infinity. That's why we don't know how to deal with the divine or God, or, in religion it sort of becomes like, it often becomes about power and not about God or the divine or infinity, because we don't really know, we don't have tools to deal with infinity. We don't know how to measure it. But in mathematics, they deal with infinity through functions or numbers they call irregulars, of which Pi is one. So practically, by the way, they used Pi to construct the Great Pyramids in ancient times. And the pyramids are constructed in a way to where the serpent, like in Chichen Itza, a serpent rises during the equinoxes. Well, this plumed serpent is Quetzalcoatl, or our energetic body, our dream body. So I will talk more about that in future episodes. But this is how I came across working with Pi. So practically, we don't have to understand why Pi mathematically is related to patterns in the universe. And please do your own research, it's interesting. We only need a tool to deal with the energy. Ancient shamans in Mexico, according to my teacher Xolotl, who lives in Mexico City, use images of animals to represent the characteristics of each chakra. A deer for the heart chakra, for example, representing courage and grace. Mandalas, lotus-shaped concentric circles, were used in Buddhism and Hinduism. I use Pi because Sholo'ul taught me to work with my chakras in the traditional form of the caracol, or shell, which the Maya use also. And in the southern state of Chiapas, they actually use it as their governing system, the Zapatistas. So beginning with the heart, moving outwards in a spiral. So in your practice, you can begin breathing into your heart, and you move outwards in a spiral to the solar plexus. So you start in your heart, and then you come down a little bit, an inch, a half an inch, and then you begin the spiral out until you make almost a complete circle, although large, beginning the spiral, and then you come to your solar plexus. You continue the spiral until you get to your throat, continue the spiral as it gets bigger until you come into your lower womb or sacrum, continue the spiral along your energetic body until you find your third eye. And I find it helpful to use my fingers to trace the path because it just makes it more real for me. I don't have to imagine. And our body responds. And that will make it easier for your energetic body to respond. So using your imagination and your physical reality is like the key for success in energy work. And then you continue on till you get to your root chakra or your sexual organs, down by your perineum, and which is between your genital organs and your anus. And then finally, until you come to your crown chakra. And you breathe into. I'll do the meditation for you eventually, but breathe into your energy centers, following the spiral in that way. It's a very powerful practice. If we have time, let's see. If we have time, I'll get to it. So I'm interested in expanding my heart chakra, probably as many of you are, if you're interested in the chakras. And perhaps through grief, loss, anger, or betrayal, I have lost some balance in my heart. Have you ever noticed how well you sleep when you're falling in love? The only thing that keeps you up is all the sex you're having. In a world of ghosting, internet comments, and global warming, is it any wonder we may lose balance or motion like movement, in our heart chakras? Because we get hurt, and so we sort of shut ourselves down. We shut off our heart to the world because we become tired of being hurt. The engine behind the healing work is our breath. The alchemy of breathing in, transforming our blood, breathing out, engaging our will, is the physical aspect of self-actualization. We become what we focus on while consciously breathing. That's in the essence of self-actualization. Creating, becoming what we focus on, what we want to become. Manifesting who we want to become, that energetic signature in the world. while consciously breathing. The inner silence which follows it creates space and stability for our new self actualized. I invite you to try this practice. Be curious, play with the idea of becoming the architect of your own universe. We may not be able to control when or how we fall in love. We can control our energy body. Perhaps that's the only thing we can control. I send you all much love from my heart chakra to yours. 1.618 0339 into infinity times. And that's the end of the article, and we're coming to the end of our show. And I hope that this helps, and we have a little bit more time. For those of you still awake, we can do a small meditation, just breathing into our sacral chakra, which is very much related to our heart, because it is the bridge from going into survival mode into thriving mode. And it's very difficult to fall in love or to feel love when we're in survival mode. But when we are in thriving mode, it becomes easier to open our heart chakra physically and emotionally. And love exists. Love is out there inside of us. It doesn't mean we have to find someone to fall in love with. We first have to tap into love, and then we attract love to us. And that's why all the sayings about love, of focusing on yourself, and then love comes to you when you're not focused on it. That's just a backwards way of saying that we have to tap into love first. Vibrate that. In Spanish, there's a saying that in order to find love, you have to have wings. Which is it's just the same idea over and over again. So let's tap into love together. You can, if you're sitting down or even lying down, pull in your abdomen a bit, raising your tailbone, so creating space in your sacrum, the triangular bone at the base of your spine, and focusing your energy on that energy center. It can be your belly button or just below your belly button. In the Taoist tradition, they call it the Dantian, and it's what you focus on first when you begin practicing Qigong. You just stay in silence, holding your hands in an invisible circle in front of your Dantian, in front of your sacrum. And you can do that now if you like, because the hands are related to the heart, which is why we use mudras. And it helps you focus your mind and your mental energy, and align your spine so that your heart chakra is open and your sacrum and sacral chakra is engaged. So maybe not relaxed, engaged. And your heart is open. So also, if you like to slouch, that might mean also engaging the back of your heart, your shoulders, pulling your shoulders back, opening the front of your chest. And then we'll take 4 breaths here. Inhale. Pulling light into your heart and into your sacrum. And you can choose a pink, an orange, a gold, or a white light coming into these energy centers. And then exhale, and as you exhale, imagine a wheel beginning to spin like a windmill. Releasing any negative emotions or creations in that windmill. And number 2, second breath. Inhale. Pulling that light into the gems, these energy gems inside of you, into your sacrum and heart, and then exhale, pushing the windmill. Release deep into the earth. Breath 3. Inhale. Pulling in motion and movement. Exhale, continuing the motion and movement with light and prism, making the light a prism as it moves. Exhale. And fourth breath, continue with that prism light energy and pull it into your sacrum and heart. And exhale. Wonderful. If you're trying to fall asleep, please do. If you are not, thank you for tuning in and listening to the podcast. If you want to join my newsletter and receive things, the articles from me that I write, and maybe tips, you can sign up at my website at SheilaHernandez.com. And thank you again. Sending you all love. Bye.